So here we go. So welcome to our fourth week of Synergy of Sacred Soul Sisters. In case you missed the first few, we, excuse me, we covered some really juicy topics the first 3 weeks. And we're really grateful for all you women who are committed to having an experience with us. And this is like a little taste test of the practices that Jane and I use regularly to really preserve and help our sacred friendship. And our desire is that women know that this is possible and create them beyond, the friendships that you currently have, and build a community of women that can really share their hopes and dreams and triumphs and challenges in a very sacred and loving container. So we're so happy you're here, and thank you. So our first week, we covered creating sacred space and how important that is to create a sacred space within you, around you, and between you and another being, and how that is fundamentally important in building upon that, right, for your relationship. Week 2, we talked about creating safety in the body and how critically important that is, that we feel safe in our own body so we can show up fully. And we talked about womb space and the importance of kind of dropping in and down, and what that does as far as an internal safety. And you're not relying on others for an external safety, but you actually have the building blocks of safety inside of you. And then last week, we focused on honest communication and how important honest communication is in relationship, and that honesty is really an inside job. And we looked at that, how we can lie to ourselves, right? We kind of bombard ourselves with negative thoughts, and we're lying to ourselves about our abilities, and how honesty is truly an inside job, and tuning in to what's fully present allows us to fully show up. And another key ingredient in sacred relationship. So for today, I want you all just to take a moment and really think about your sacred space, right? And whatever you do that allows you to do that, right? To really create a sacred connection to you, to the universe, to God, to Goddess, to Mother Earth, and really set that intention that you want this to be a sacred environment for you to do this practice with us today. And Jane and I do that before we start the call. We really set up a sacred container to welcome you and have you be part of our gathering and part of this work. And then after you take a moment to do that, just notice, right? What am I showing up with today? Physically, mentally, emotionally, right? You're not looking to change it or shift it. You're just noticing. Oh, my body feels this today. Or, I have a little bit of a heavy heart because of some news that I received. Whatever it is, and all is welcome, right? All is welcome. And once you have kind of some cues and clues to what you're bringing to our sacred circle today, if you can share that in the chat, that would be great, right? I'm bringing curiosity, I'm bringing tension in my upper shoulders and a little anxiety or fear, whatever it is, just so we kind of get a sense of where we are together in this sacred space. And for the sake of time, we're using the chat today to kind of gather any questions and comments. We do have an hour-long session at the end in week 6, where we'll really be able to go more live with your questions, but we're gathering them. If anything feels pressing, we can put it in and hopefully get to it at the end. And that last session with the Q&A will be on September 12th. Yeah. I love that. I'm bringing trust. Beautiful. And jumpy, curiosity, interest. Yeah, tension. It's all welcome. So Jane and I would like to introduce ourselves. For those that don't know me, I am an intuitive transformational coach. I really help women awaken and align to their divine potential. And that's something that I work on daily. That is my sacred practice. And Jane?
And I support women who are really done with the status quo and that they're craving change in their life, but they may be stuck with procrastinating, with overwhelm, with anxiety, fear, and they're not moving forward as fast as they'd like to. And so I am a teacher. I've created a program called Empowered Feminine Leadership. They'll be starting up classes in October, and I have free workshops for people to get a taste of it. And I'm also a transformational coach. So I help women individually move through and step into the leadership that they really desire.
And together, Jane and I dreamt into creation this synergy of sacred soul sisters to help women and support women in developing, maintaining, and creating sacred friendships that are authentic, heart-centered, and have true meaning. And sometimes when we're doing this sacred work, we still get triggered, right? We get things that show up that are like, ooh, that's really uncomfortable. And triggers are really important to know them, to navigate them, and to bring your attention to them. So Jane?
Yeah. And it's really interesting, Jules, as you say that, we're noticing how we're being brought through some situations that have never occurred in our relationship. And it's taking us in deeper, triggering us, and we're learning how to navigate through that so that we can teach it to others. So it's amazing how this all comes together. But let's get into to triggers. So triggers, what are they? They are stemming from negative past experiences and deeply held beliefs. We're talking about emotional triggers. We're not talking about triggers that result from trauma. So today, it's all about emotional triggers that we're talking about. You know, things like abandonment or criticism or rejection, feeling betrayed, that sort of thing. And why do we look at triggers is because they can really impact our relationships in a very deep way. They can wreak havoc. So what happens is that they're unconsciously sabotaging your relationship. They can cause us to have irrational responses to situations that may not be such a big thing, but we have this huge reaction to it. And it creates a lot of unnecessary tension that in relationships that really that's what stops you from deepening your relationships with people. So how do you know that you're being triggered? Is you you have an intense response. So you might feel like, oh, I'm feeling really stressed and I'm feeling angry or I'm being pissed off. You might feel really afraid, or all of a sudden you feel so deeply unheard or panicked. And even when we feel some of these things, we may have this habit to suppress it with a nice smile. And we might even not notice that we're doing that. But people around us can notice this, and they might look at us and go, "Are you okay?"
And you'll say something like, "Oh, I'm fine, I'm good," and behind that, it's like, "Oh, I wanna just, you know,
And
scream or lash out," right?
that's the beauty of being in a relationship, a sacred relationship with someone who can help you see that stuff, because that's a habit or a pattern. And the other thing, how do we know that we're triggered, is that the our emotional response can be way bigger than the situation actually warrants. So, can you see for yourself that this is still happening in your life? Most of us still are triggered. It takes a lot of inner work to be able to move past this. And so think about, who is it? Who are the people in your life that tend to trigger you the most?
And we're talking about the ones that have that magic button. It's like,
Yeah.
"Bing, bing, 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 bing. Got ya. I got you again, and again, and again, and again, and here's another one," right? It's like they have the magic button to that keep pushing and keep pushing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And somehow these triggers can feel justified, right? We make ourselves feel justified that we can have this.
Right.
But when we really allow the opportunity to those who are triggering us to be a mirror for us, and to turn it around away from them and towards ourselves, and to really look at, what part of me have I not integrated? What is it that I'm not allowing about myself? And I'll take you into a practice as we move through this. Julie, you're going to talk a little bit more
Yeah,
before I.
I got a couple of questions around the triggers, right? How many of you feel frequently annoyed, irritated, or stressed by the same friend, acquaintance, or family member? Right? It's usually the same person, right? That has that little magic button. I want you to think about, what quality is it that you're finding most irritating, that's driving you crazy, right? Are they talking over you? Are they ignoring you? Are they bragging? Are they way more confident? Are they, what is it? What's the thing that's driving you crazy? And then think about, do you want them to change so you can feel better? Do you want them to stop doing that thing so you can feel better? And then what do you do when you're triggered, right? Do you zone out? Like they're talking and you're just not listening? Are you gritting your teeth? Are you holding back a lashing out? Are you clenching your jaw? Are you wishing they just shut up and go away so you could feel better? Like, what do you do? And I'd love you to just share in the chat, like, if you know the thing, like, oh, it drives me crazy that my husband procrastinates, right? It's like my thing. So what's the thing? What's the quality of the other person that drives you crazy? And really notice that when we bring awareness around the trigger, it helps break the habitual pattern that causes us to have these unconscious knee-jerk reactions and responses, right? Triggers are relationship destroyers when they are unconscious, right? When we're more conscious of them, we work a little different. And that's why doing this shadow work today, and you can do shadow work that's light shadow and dark shadow, but we're going to do a dark shadow practice today. It helps address these emotional triggers. And everyone carries a shadow, and the less it's embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. And at all counts, it forms an unconscious snag, thwarting our most well-meant intentions. And that's a Carl Jung quote. And today, Jane is going to take us through a practice that's going to help uncover this dark shadow so you don't resist it, reject it, push it away, hide it, ignore it, right? And this quality, right, and you'll go through more in the practice, is going to be a clue for you of what needs your attention.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the benefits we'll talk about at the end, right? There's a lot of great benefit in doing shadow work. Yeah. Jane?
Okay, so if everyone has a pen and paper, we'll need that for this practice. So if you need to get one, please do. And this practice is about finding some of your strongest triggers. Okay, we're looking at dark shadows. And so, what we can do, we can wait until someone triggers us and we get upset. That's one way to find a shadow. But we're going to actually find one actively. We're consciously looking for one today through this practice. So, first, we're going to find a word. There's 4 steps that I'm going to take you through. And what the first one is finding the word that really triggers you. Okay, so what I want you to do is imagine that someone that you know, that you respect, has just posted on Facebook or some other social media platform. They've maybe sent out an email to your friends or family. They've said something about you that's the worst possible thing they could say about you. And this could make you feel furious. You might be cringing with shame. You might want to hide, getting pissed off, or you're feeling like I just want to protect my reputation. So, what is that word? What is it for you that's the worst thing they could say about you? Is it that you are a show off, that you're fake, that you're out of integrity? Maybe you're a slut or a whore, that you're too needy, you're a know it all, you're stubborn. So just feel into it and don't think too much about it. Just put down the word, or if there's more than one, put them all down.
I'm going to throw a couple in there. Controlling, manipulative, domineering, incompetent, right?
Yes. Okay, so now that you've write those words down, don't overthink it. But if any of you have more than one word, what I'd like you to do is to feel into which one is the strongest, that you have the most resistance to. You just don't want to be this. Okay, so if everyone has one word, now we're going to go into step 2. So, step 2, we ask, how am I like this? So, here's where you get to reverse the focus.
And you're
it's
probably getting triggered by that.
Yeah,
I want to be that.
exactly. So, you're not going to look at them. Now you're going to reverse the focus on you. And when I first started doing the shadow work, it was such a mind screw for me. I couldn't figure out, why do I want to be that? I don't want to be that, but just play with me and keep going through this. So we're reversing the focus. How am I like this? So you take your word. I am going to use the example of Susie is stupid. Okay?
And
So,
if there's any Susies listening, we apologize.
all right. So now I'm Susie. I am going to look at how I am stupid. Okay? And I'm just going to jot down what comes to mind. Okay, how am I stupid? Well, I'm really stupid when I forget my best friend's birthday. Or I'm really stupid when I neglect feeding myself healthy food. Or I might be really stupid when I take the wrong way home. So, what is it for you? Take your word, substitute stupid for your word, and just write down whatever comes to you and try to list at least 3 to 5 ways of how you are that.
And if you're struggling with that, just throw it into the chat, your word, and maybe we can give you at least one of how that would be helpful, or to really
Okay.
kind of see yourself in that light,
Yeah.
in the light of the shadow.
And so we're moving through this fairly quickly today because we do only have a short time together. But you can continue this practice and keep working on that list. Okay, so now we're going to move to step number 3. And step number 3, we want to find the reason why is it good to be stupid, or what's the virtue in that quality that you're reacting to. Okay, so we first ask, how am I like that? Now we look at, why is it good to be that way? Okay, so you're going to do that for your word, whatever that is. But here's an idea of why. What's the virtue? Why is it good for me to be stupid? Well, if I'm stupid, if I think about it, I think, okay, well, I don't have to know all the answers, and now I can ask other people for help.
There's room for mistakes.
Yep. And I put less pressure on myself because I don't have to know it all. I don't have to try so hard. So sometimes it might feel like you're kind of manipulating to find a reason, and that's okay. Just go with it. And you get more and more used to doing this shadow work, and it gets easier and easier. So when we try and find the virtue, this is what really helps to neutralize the negative charge around the trigger.
And there are two in the chat, Jana. I just wanted to kind of speak to those directly. Inauthentic being one of them, right? When I put on my makeup, this is not my natural beauty, right? It's inauthentic. It's a created one. It's not how I wake up and look in the morning. So being inauthentic by putting on my makeup and making myself feel beautiful feels really good for me, right? So I can kind of embrace being inauthentic. This is not how I look when I wake up in the morning. It's not how I roll out of bed. I wish, but no, it's not. So those are the ways you just try to kind of dial down the charge of something that you have so much resistance and negativity towards.
Yeah. Okay, so hoping that you have a few things listed by now, and I encourage you to continue the list. Keep it going for even work on it for a month, just on one word. That would be great. But now I'm going to suggest to you what the next step would be, because a lot of people do shadow work and they keep it to the stage of journaling. They think about it, but I've learned a way to really embody this, embody the integration of this word. And I'm just going to tell you how to do it. We're not going to be able to do it together today, but you can take this yourself. And the reason we want to integrate it, we want to integrate it into our body so that we really feel it. And I notice with my clients that this step is the place where everybody breaks down and cries because they realize when they try to feel it in every cell of your body, excuse me, that I am stupid. So the idea is to say it out loud, use an I am statement, I am, and whatever word it is you're trying to integrate, and say, I am stupid. And the beautiful thing is if you can do this in front of the mirror, or you can do it on video and then play it back to yourself so you can listen to it. But if you have somebody, a sacred witness to work with, who can then tell you, not quite, Jane, I didn't feel it. I didn't feel it, and your voice was wavering, you haven't really owned it. That is such an incredible help to move you forward faster through your shadows. And that's what I would encourage you to do. We're going to be doing this together in our offerings in the future. But for now, I leave it to you as a practice to try in front of the mirror.
And feel the discomfort, right? Change comes in that moment of discomfort, right? You're in it. And then the more you kind of relax into it and practice the I am, right? It doesn't mean you're that all the time, but at least you have the range to be that.
Yeah.
Without ridicule or shame.
Right. And I just want to say that, the reason we do this shadow work is that we're living in a world of duality where everything's on a spectrum. We've got stupid on one side of the spectrum, and on the other side, we've got smart. We've got independent and dependent. There's light, there's dark, there's all these different dualities. And the idea is that when we are in resistance to one side, usually we're okay with being one side of it. And the other side, no way, I don't even want to go there. So that resistance holds a lot of energy. We're actually pushing that into a dark shadow, and we're using our energy and our life force to do that. So the ideal is we want to be more in the neutral, in the middle of the spectrum, and be okay with being stupid and being smart, or whatever the spectrum is for you. So when we have less resistance, we actually have more energy available to us in our life force to do all the things that we want to accomplish. So this is really liberating work. And Jules, you're going to sum it up for us?
Yeah, and I think even if you take neutral a step further, right? More than just neutral, but comfortable, where you can laugh at yourself. Oh my God, that was so stupid of me, right? Or today I'm dressed up in that red hot dress and I am the slut of all sluts to turn my husband on, right? To just be comfortable in it. And that's what you want. You want comfort in this polarized energy where you can move in that spectrum easily, freely, and with conscious choice, right? And the benefit, what's the benefit? How many of you want to be less judgmental? And I'm not talking about just others. I'm talking about yourself. How many of you want to be less judgmental? Give me a little raise of a hand. How many of you want to be less judgmental about yourself, right? How many of you want more compassion for yourself and for others? So that noise of that inner critic, right, stops its destruction of relationship, even the relationship you have with yourself. And then another raise of hands. How many of you want to feel more confident and comfortable in your own body? So you can show up in relationships with this ease and comfort around a variety of things that may have been shadows and triggers for you. Oh, I can do that. That's easy. I could feel that in my system, in my nervous system, and not be triggered. That's easy. I know how to do this. So these practices, these tips and tools, and this power-packed 30 minutes that we're kind of jumping on these calls with you really does take time and commitment and repetition for them to be transformational. And it also helps to have a sacred sister, right? Someone that you can call and rely on and be your sacred mirror, your sacred witness, right? So I love that you're here. I love that you're listening to the recordings and really have an interest in the work that we're doing and have something inside of you that says, yeah, I want some deeper, more authentic, more heart-centered relationships with women. And we can use these tools in all relationships, right? In every relationship that we have. So thank you for being here. We have a couple of announcements. Next week, we're going to be working on healing the collective wounds of women. Biggie, right? We all carry them. We all carry some sort of persecution energy, victim energy somewhere in our psyche. And the final week after that, that's September 5th. And then after that, September 12th, we're doing the power of presence and a beautiful practice around that with an additional 30 minutes built in for Q&A. So you can ask Jane and I questions. You can bring your questions of your own relationships, triggers, struggles, questions about practices that we've gone over. And then we have a beautiful opportunity. So you might want to write this down if you still have your pen and paper there. On Sunday, October 15th, from 11 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Jane and I are going to have a deep dive, a full day of some of these practices and really building sacred community. And we really hope that you would choose to be with us on that journey. And the link and more information on that will come in our next newsletter with the replay. So keep a lookout for that. And yeah, I thank you so much for being here. You are beautiful, gorgeous, radiant women. And I do feel the sacredness of your being as part of our circle today. So I thank you so much.
Yeah. And I echo that. And just many of you have done this work before. I see you. And yet we know that it really takes a community to help us to move forward faster, and it's having somebody to see your blind spots and having the opportunity to keep practicing this, take it to the next level, will create so much more enjoyment in your relationships. So hold space for that.
And does everyone have our email if you need to reach out? Synergy of Sacred Soul Sisters at Gmail. Some of you even have my phone number. Feel free to text or give a call. Love you all. Thank you again. And we really look forward to being with you next week for healing the collective wounds of women. Another sacred practice. Enjoy
Bye.
your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you.
You.